Yep, and going into this first ban here, my guess is probably we might even see some caster bans, like caster heroes. Not us, not us casters, but
I ban Luxuria,
such as Celeste and Scarf. Although we saw a lot of Scarf actually getting through, and it was more so focused on that Celeste. And if not that, we might see some roam heavy bans that they just don't want to give over at the start.
Yeah, I think Catherine's obviously an important ban, but we've also seen Glaive and Quill being quite important in the ban phase. Generally second ban, but Glaive is one of the heroes that has occasionally been first banned as well. So that definitely could be an option. And I don't think that Elite 8 is specifically going to ban Scarf away from themselves. They do like to play Scarf, so maybe going for the Celeste ban could bait a Scarf ban straight away. So maybe maybe it's not worth actually banning away one of the mages in case you want to pick one.
Yep, and it looks like the side of Elite 8, I believe, we're going into a bit of that bonus time. We're more than likely going to have to see a reset on draft here. Hopefully see a ban fairly soon for this.
Hopefully we see a ban. I definitely agree that some kind of removal of a hero would be nice. Idris is obviously an option as well. If as A side you can always first pick it. We haven't seen Idris played except for weapon power really. We saw 4 Idris yesterday.
We did see the one CP Idris yesterday.
And one CP Idris was lost. And it's really odd because the meta in other regions is CP Idris, and nothing else. Whereas in SEA we've decided that weapon Idris is far superior.
Well, you know, I think right now that Idris pickup, if you're not going to choose it, that could also be a possible ban coming into this first ban slot here. But we are still waiting to see.
Yeah, hopefully the Elite 8 can sort out their problems connecting to the client. There must be some connectivity issues. Hopefully that doesn't transfer into the game. We've been reasonably good with connection so far, and yeah, I think Elite 8 just either they're extremely stuck on what banning is and how to ban, or there's some kind of problem.
Okay, and third time is the charm. I would like to hope so. But yeah, in terms of, we've been talking about what ban they might choose first, but what kind of first pickups do you think they're looking for? You talked a small bit about it before we jumped into this draft phase, but really looking at these two teams, Elite 8 and Infamous, what kind of picks do you think they're going to try lock down for their own team?
Yeah, I definitely think that the first pick, Lance and Grace, are going to be likely, but also we could see a first pick Scarf or first pick Celeste. We saw that earlier on. It's very interesting because those two mages just seem, if one team gets one and you don't get the other, you're already at a disadvantage. So it makes sense to if you first pick Celeste, then you kind of want to have banned Scarf. If you ban Scarf, they're likely to have banned Celeste, and it's a really interesting position with those two mages where the only real position where you're able to get one and deny the other is on B side. So you can first pick your Celeste and ban away the Scarf next. Whereas on A side, there's the enemy team always has a way to counter pick you after you've done your ban or pick, and so there's no way which you can guarantee that you're going to get one of the mages and leave the other not open. So maybe we could see a Black Feather ban if they do want to pick up Celeste or Scarf early on.
That could be the case. You really do want to deny from those heroes that can dive onto backline. A Taka ban could also come through, but definitely more relevant in the current meta is that Black Feather pick. So I could totally agree with you there of that being the case. So right now, as we just wait even further, all we really can do between these two teams is predict, but there's going to be Lance ban finally.
They've got rid of Lance, so that's implying that they probably want to play Grace or Catherine, and I suppose if neither are banned, they're just going to pick one up, or maybe they're going to first pick their Celeste because Scarf has been taken off the fold. It would be interesting. I think the Grace or Catherine would be a much safer pick, and Idris is an equally safe pick because he's extremely strong, and you're not leaving yourself to be straight up counterpicked. I would expect that if that a Grace is probably going to be picked up now, and then maybe a Weapon Glaive or Weapon Kestrel to try and counter that Idris.
Yeah, well, there is the Lance ban, the Scarf ban, and the Idris pick. You know, we talked about those first ban slots either going to be on those mage heroes or going to be for the Roam, and we got a bit of both there. And then we saw the Idris pickup, which you touched on, Weapon Power Idris just being so strong right now. And there's the Glaive pickup, which we've seen Glaive in quite a few matches, just fits in really nicely. I think he's in a good place, obviously. The Weapon Power Glaive we haven't seen. CP has definitely fallen off. There's a few patches back when CP was always constantly being used, but back to the Weapon Power, people just go Tension Bow. It's good to get in there, just get the early damage off, and then when you build into that mid game, you really start hitting hard, and he has quite a decent range we've seen in a lot of fights. And there's going to be the Cruel ban and the Celeste ban followed through. So what do you think about those?
Yeah, the Celeste ban makes a lot of sense because of the Scarf initial ban, so they didn't want to play either of the mages. They were eventually all banned away, and the Grace pick obviously is just smart because they wanted to first pick the Glaive, I suppose, because they think it's a really good Idris counter, and it is. Glaive is fantastic against Idris if you can snowball the early game, but if you can't, then Glaive is a bit risky to play because late game he's just not that good. He doesn't have the damage Idris does, and if he doesn't burst Idris down immediately, you're just not going to win that team fight. I think to round this comp out, there's an awful lot they could go for. They're going to pick up the Lyra just to give some healing, and now it depends what kind of composition Elite 8 want to run here. They could either pick up a Weapon Blackfeather in the jungle to go with CP Idris, or maybe they want to do a Weapon Idris with a CP Fortress. We've seen that before. We saw CP Idris Weapon Fortress. I highly doubt that's going to come out. There's a lot better weapon junglers left. But it's really, yeah, they could round out their comp with maybe a Baptiste, could work really well. We haven't seen much Baptiste, but he's still an extremely strong hero.
Yes, and looks like draft has just been paused, but talking on how they might finish the comp there, yeah, I do think they might be looking for some kind of backline jungler with a bit of range in the team comp, or they could just go all in, as you suggested, maybe a Fortress pickup or a Blackfeather if they really want to commit to these things. But they've got the Idris already, who's more than likely going to be that Weapon Power Idris up in the front line, which should have good synergy with Lyra in the first place. And Idris in his own kit should have enough sustainability to keep him alive. And when we look on the side of Infamous, they were obviously looking for a stun-heavy, a CC-heavy comp, I should say, and that is why that Celeste ban that came out second on the side of Elite 8, you're right, made a lot of sense. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're still looking for maybe a Roma with those kind of capabilities, or they could just decide to, I don't know, really here you would imagine a CP laner at this point.
Yeah, they could go CP lane. Skye work really well. We've seen a lot of Skye playing against someone like Blackfeather, so it would be really hard. It's a really tough job to play Skye against a double assassin comp. One thing that could work really well, because it is very likely to be a Weapon Idris, is maybe a Rhyme or someone like Rona, who just wants to be engaged on, and so their dive comp just becomes kind of useless. The problem with picking a hero like that is they'll just turn it into CP Idris, and then you're countered because CP Idris isn't a dive, he's just a poke hero. Maybe they even go double CP with the CP Blackfeather as well, and so it's really good. The Adagio's not expecting it. Is a CP laner, so you were right about that decision to put most likely Glaive jungle, and Adagio lane does really well against Idris as well if you can snowball your early game advantage, which Adagio is going to have, likely to build a Swift Shooter and just try to bully Idris as much as possible when he tries to farm.
Well, now the question is, for the side of Elite 8, are they going to go that Weapon Power Idris? You're right, we saw most games yesterday go for Weapon Power Idris, but that CP Idris was picked up, and that could be something they still look for, because Blackfeather is very versatile, whether you want to go for the CP burst or Weapon Power, just jumping in there and building the stacks up. And I think that, in this case, Blackfeather almost has more synergy with Lyra. Idris is quite mobile on his own and moving around a fair bit in the fight when he's Weapon Power, so it can sometimes be quite hard to heal him as a Lyra. what do you think will happen here?
Yeah, it certainly can be annoying with when you're trying to heal an Idris and unable to be healed, and maybe you waste your cooldowns, waste your fountain even. So it's definitely going to be most likely that I was prioritising on that Black Feather, keeping him alive, and I would like to see a CP Idris and a weapon Black Feather. So I think that will work really well diving into Adagio, whereas a CP Black Feather just doesn't seem to work as well, and weapon Idris really, I just don't think it would be a good idea, because it would be tough farming, and it would stay tough farming for a very long time, as opposed to CP Idris, who can get those ranged basic attacks and won't be hit by the fire from Adagio whenever they're trying to outtrade each other in lane.
Yeah, that's a very good point there. If they're planning to put this Idris in lane, more than likely, I mean, we see Hun Jaegers on that Idris, and right now, going up against the team comp of Infamous, they got that Grace, the Glaive, and the Adagio. You don't want to be near the burn of Adagio when he ignites the minions, and then you don't want to be too close, because you could easily get caught out by an afterburn, or even Grace just coming in with the benediction to slow you down, and it opens up an easy chance for the afterburn to land. So looking at these team comps, I am quite liking what the side of Infamous have got for themselves, but I rarely am, if it's going to be a CP Idris, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. Both teams going aggressive early game.
Oh, there's going to be the afterburn onto Anime Save Me, and early first blood going over to the side of Infamous, and they're not stopping there. They're looking for more. They're going to bully out, probably take half this jungle, turn around and take the mid treant as well. And right now, yeah, Infamous Legion, you can see if you get caught out in that comp, it's very hard to escape from. A lot of CC there, and it just flows well. They weren't able to get the probably preferred pick of Scarf or Celeste. I mean, they banned Scarf out themselves, but as you said, they might have been looking for a Celeste pick.
Yeah, definitely it's possible that Infamous thought, we can first pick Glaive, maybe they'll let us get the Celeste, they'll let it through. Adagio is probably just as good, in fact, probably much better early game, and it is a really common rotation to go aggressive early on. Look at that wave for Spaghetti, he's got to try and clear. So that's really smart from Tesaboy to push Hun Jaegers back and allow Spaghetti just as much time as possible to try and clear these minions. And yeah, actually, Official Hind isn't even going to contest Spaghetti while he's trying to farm. And yeah, it's really common to see a 3-man aggressive rotation into the enemy jungle. And both teams tried it. Infamous managed to win the fight, and so they could secure the 2 healing camps and just ignore the fronts, because front camps don't give that much gold or experience, and it's kind of not worth your time to try and risk taking the enemy fronts when they might be able to contest the Elder Treant if you decide to do that.
Yeah, and I think continuing on that point of the 3-man engage, I think generally just teams with a Grace like to be aggressive, because Grace with that, I believe, Retribution perk is able to go in and land some extra damage on those basic attacks. And it looks like Spaghetti going to be just stopped from backing there. And I think we talked about before just the synergy of what Infamous Legion have, but the question is, how are Elite 8 going to turn this one around? How are they going to have to engage into this fight, and who should the target be?
Yeah, I think Elite 8 need to dive in on Adagio if they decide to dive in, but with their CP Idris now that they have decided to go, which I'm extremely pleased with. I think it's the much smart decision against this comp. They just have to outpoke Adagio, so Votion Shack comes down, make sure they don't get hit by the Arcane Fire, and then as soon as Glaive Afterburn's in, block the Afterburn, switch focus to Glaive because he'll be out of position, and then CP Idris can just do the rest of the work. I think if Black Feather decides to dive in on Adagio, that won't be as good, because that leaves Glaive free to die on the Idris, so dive on the Idris, which I think Glaive v Idris is much better than Black Feather v Adagio. And nice damage onto Tesaboy, but not going to be too much. I think Spaghetti wants to clear this wave, so unlikely Shingy's going to get the afterburn in just yet. Oh, maybe not.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to go in with a Holy Nova, and they get the knock up onto Anime Save Me, but both roamers on each team are going low, and it's just going to be a bit of trade damage. No one going in to secure the kills just yet. And it looks like they're going to, at least for side of Elite 8, backing away from this one. You can see Chingy and Tezboy still waiting in that brush. Definitely Infamous, a team to stick together even in this early game, just looking for those initial kills, because I think what Infamous are really good at, and it's what we always talk about, is once you get kills, to get objectives, get maybe say, even if it's just a bit of CS, a bit of farm away from the enemy, if you're getting objectives after getting those kills, that's really what's going to push a team ahead. And Infamous, being one of the top teams in Southeast Asia, knows exactly how to do that.
Yeah, certainly. Infamous are actually being really impressive with their rotations. He has got quite a few rotations with Shingy to the back camps, 6. And Shingy's only level 5, and also Spaghetti's farming extremely well, already on 45 CS, going to be 47 now, and that's extremely good for an Adagio to try and get ahead, but Hunyegas is pretty even, to be fair. He might have stolen some jungle away because Official Hind is behind. Official Hind!
Great afterburn onto Official Hind, followed up by the Holy Nova. It's going to knock him up, but it's not going to be enough damage, as we see Anime Save Me putting the renewal in there to save their life. Not renewal, my bad. Mind blank.
Imperial Sigil.
The Imperial Sigil. And this is why Minimai has had to save the day.
That's the only reason I'm here, is for ability now. Nice to know.
No, I enjoy talking with you. Does that help?
Yeah, if you say so. And Anime Save Me actually used. He's going aggressive. No, okay, ran very defensive after doing 2 turret shots, and Minion Candy looks like it was not wasted too much. It was pretty effective at stopping that push from Infamous onto the turret. But Spaghetti is able to secure the CS, and there's going to be some more jungle rotations with laners going to backs, because it's just the ambient gold going up to 85% means that it was meant to encourage captains to roam down to the jungle, but it just means laners should do it as much as possible to get as much gold as possible and just farm them up into late game, especially with someone like CP Idris.
Yeah, it's definitely the strategy we've been seeing. I'm not sure whether I should say abused or just used, because it is what SCMC kind of had in mind when putting that into play, by trying to incentivize the Roma to roam a bit more. But if anything, it's making the Roma just substitute into lane and be up in lane on their own. Right now, we just saw before Anime Save Me and Tezboy up in the lane on their own. Not really doing too much, but Chingy right now gonna go in with the afterburn, hits them into the wall there, and they manage to secure the kills, and that's a second kill going over to the side of Infamous, where it's almost 7 minutes in. Goldmine not completely full just yet, but it looks like Infamous gonna take the opportunity to go for it, increase that lead that they've got by 1k at the moment.
But Anime Save Me with a sigil. Lyra is one of the best heroes to steal a gold mine, and it is going to be secured by Glaive. Anime Save Me out of position now.
Yeah, but going over the wall with the afterburn doesn't catch out Anime Save Me, so they were at least able to secure their own gold mine. That is the worst feeling ever, when a mid objective gets taken by the enemy, especially if it's something like the Imperial Sigil. But in that case, you can see that Chigi already, with that Sorrow Blade, has enough damage to go through and take the gold mine secured. Very clear. And right now we're going to see just both teams kind of, if we look at it right now, it's definitely going a lot of fights in favor of Infamous, only because of they go off these afterburns, and this is why Glaive is such a good pickup right now.
Yeah, definitely. They are using the afterburns very effectively, and even though we're seeing an extremely passive game, Infamous are ahead. They're trying to start to push their advantage, but they don't want to get into a team fight where it's not the right position, where Glaive can't get a good afterburn. So that is possibly slowing down their aggression, which could be a real problem up against Idris. And Black Feather could be out of position, but he knows that Infamous are rotating down. Now this is a 2 versus 3 in the lane. Infamous probably able to either seize this height or go for a sentry rotation now. Yeah, most likely go towards that. Official Highness trying to 1v1, 1v3. Oh, good score.
He needs to get out of there soon. Uses the Rose Offensive to do so. They go, and Infamous just going to turn their attention onto the Crystal Sentry. They managed to take it down. And right now, they're just bullying out Officialheim from his own jungle. You can see in terms of farm, it's not really affecting him too much. And we look across the board. In fact, Hun Jaeger is actually ahead of Spaghetti in farm. And I think that be attributed to the fact that Spaghetti is always rotating with the rest of his team instead of being up in that lane position. But when you look over at Chingy sitting at 47 and Officialheim at 43, you're kind of wondering where all this disparity is coming in right now. And I think it's just more so the fact of, you said before, it's a quite a passive game, and if they let go too slowly on the side of Infamous and they don't start pushing it a bit more, it really could swing around quickly.
Yeah, definitely. Someone like a CP Idris is more than capable of turning around a gold deficit, especially one as slight as it is at the moment. So I think Shingy with that infusion, and Spaghetti already popped his, are definitely looking to fight, but you do not want to fight after just taking about 6 hits from a Chakram in the team.
Oh no, there's going to be the Arcane Passage into the fight, and they're jumping. Tezaboy is going to be the first target. Officialheim trying to follow through to Chingy, but Afterburn's going to hit onto Hun Jaegers, who's trying to hide behind the gold miner. It's going to get the Chakram off before he dies to get the kill. Now Spaghetti fighting out with Officialheim, and it's going to be the ace for the side of Elite 8, but just barely did Officialheim go down at the end there. Anime Save Me not quite able to save Officialheim with the Imperial Sigil. However, we see this massive aced up minion wave pushing through, and it should surely be able to take this turret on their own. Grace will be there, but I don't think she can save it on her own. No.
If I was Spaghetti, I'd be very annoyed. Look at that way. Tezaboy is going to go low just to the damage from those minions. And one heal will just take them all down. Boom, bye-bye, about 15 CS. But yeah, that's a really good fight for Elite 8. Even though only their captain was alive, you saw that the minion wave was bigger for them, so it was able to easily push in and take down the turret. I think the fight was pretty messy for both teams. There was a lovely Atlas from Anime Save Me. Picked up Atlas' second item, and Arcane Passaged into the backline, got Shingy and Spaghetti with that Atlas Pauldron. So I think what Spaghetti needs to do is, as soon as that Atlas comes down, your CP Adagio, so you're not going to deal any damage with your basics, you should just start heal yourself, start casting your ultimate while you're Atlas, and then once the Atlas wears off, then you basically attack everyone.
Yep, and we see Infamous now trying to get something in return here, putting a lot of poke down. There's going to be the engage coming through by Chingy with the Afterburn, but doesn't hit Hun Jaeger's back in the right direction. Divine Intervention going to be used onto Spaghetti to keep him alive, but we've got heals coming through on both sides for both roamers, and right now it's going to be Tezaboy jumping in there with the Benediction, gets the Holy Nova. It's going to be the trade-out for Grace for the Idris, but meanwhile, Officialheim trying to dive on Spaghetti, but Spaghetti stands his ground. 9 broken myth stacks there, able to take him down easily, and you can see how dangerous this Adagio is if you're not able to get the Atlas Pauldron onto it.
Yeah, some really fantastic damage from Spaghetti, just deleting Officialheim, who has got Serpent's Mask and Breaking Point, but only tier 1 weapon defense on Spaghetti. So that's really interesting build from Officialheim. I think when you're going up against Adagio, you need to just get some defense, because otherwise he's going to burst you down so quickly, even with just 2 damage items. Once he builds up those myth stacks, which are quite easy to do on Adagio, yeah, you really are in trouble. Hun Jaeger's going to get a block now and has got a bit of minion candy, probably to push the wave, but it may be that Elite 8 wants to try and force a fight under Sentry. But Infamous looking like they are able to just keep pushing this gold lead, and Hun Jaeger's has got 3 damage items, and Spaghetti's only got 2, but he's got a full Aegis. So in a 1 versus 1, Spaghetti most likely will win, as long as he dodges at least a Chakram hit or 2.
Well, however, compared to the really early game we saw, now Elite 8 at least have a bit of a fighting chance, and they're starting to push back with some damage. They're at least trading out kills, but not necessarily winning out the fights completely. But you said before that really CP Idris could turn a fight around really well if you aren't careful and paying attention to where those chakrams go. And especially with CP Idris being, if you're able to maneuver around your own chakrams and get the most damage out of them, can really cause a lot of, I guess, I would say you can, for an Idris, you're going to be able to build up those broken myth stacks, and as well, you can see the Shatter Glass that was built up on Hunyega, a CP Idris build that I like to go preferred to the Frostburn build. It's just so much more damage, especially against a team that wouldn't build shield. However, Infamous respected that, and they've gone for Aegis all across the board for Spaghetti and Chingy.
Yeah, that's definitely a respect for CP Idris. Just if you don't build that just early on, then it will feel like his damage is constantly too high. If he's got 2 damage items and you've got only, it's going to be hurting a lot. If he's got 3 damage items and you've got a little bit of defense, it's still going to be hurting a lot. So prioritizing that early, really important. And I feel Hunyaga's is going to go for the 4 damage items Idris. I'd expect an Eve or Frostburn as a 4th item. But Adagio now with 3 damage items and Aegis is actually ahead quite considerably of Hunyaga's. So Elite 8, if they are looking to fight, it will most likely be under this Crystal Sentry or contesting this gold mine.
Yes, as we see, there's only 20 seconds left for that gold mine. I think Elite 8 would have liked it to try catch up the gold difference right now, sitting at 29.7 over to the 34.5k. So it would be nice for Elite 8 to have, but right now they've really just got to focus at keeping control over this lane and the pressure, especially with Kraken now coming up onto the fold. You need to keep that lane evenly pushed, or more preferably push towards the enemy turret, and it gives you a bit more breathing space around the Kraken to roam freely. But right now, Elite 8 probably looking for... They need to win a fight here. It's going to be so important. If they lose, I can imagine that Infamous is going to take the second and the base turret.
Yeah, certainly could be. A clean ace would lead to that, but it looks like it's going to be someone caught out.
Ooh, there's going to be the arcane passage onto the backline once again, but Glaive is on the backline of Elite 8. Manages to take down Blackfeather instantly, and Hunyaga's and Anime Save Me now on the run. And do you think Infamous are going to have the confidence now? Well, they answer it
that
for
is
me.
the answer. Yeah, Infamous deciding to start up Kraken straight away. They know the wave is pushed, so that forces Idris to be in lane, at least for a little bit. But now Elite 8, you know exactly what's happening. A Chakram and an Imperial Sigil are both going to go try and steal this Kraken, but Spaghetti is having none of it. They're going to fight.
And there's going to be the afterburn over the wall just to keep them away, but turning their attention back to the Kraken now, knowing Spaghetti can handle it alone. The 1v2 manages to take down Hunyaga's, and I think it's surprising to see that in this situation that Lyra's healing just isn't enough anymore, and it's why I think that when it comes to roamers, Grace is just such a better roamer to have that, and we talked about it in the pre-draft, or the extended draft I should say, because it's going on a fair while, but Grace with that engage comp, with the engage in her kit, as well as that healing coming out from Divine Intervention, and you talked about the Echo build, which was more than likely going to happen, and we see it there. It should be up in another 7 seconds as well, but they're not even going to wait for that. They are just trying to push this Kraken in, and there's those 2 turrets I predicted would come out from Infamous, because right now they're just so strong, and even though the kills are only 4 ahead for the side of Infamous, who are seeing 8 to 4, we can see that gold slowly creeping up to the 10k, as they're now seeing at 40.1k and going up against 35k.
Yeah, slowly increasing this gold lead. It's only 5k, so definitely able to be turned around if Official Hein doesn't get bursted down. He still hasn't got that much defense, and it's not easy for a Blackfeather, because obviously he's not getting much farm compared to they're just trying to farm up Idris. But he needs to get a full Aegis on Adagio, and preferably Atlas on both of them. So both of those items are really important before it feels like Elite 8 can actually farm. Actually fight, sorry.
Yeah, and like right now, even though we see Infamous holding a steady lead, I think it really comes down to Elite 8 just getting onto that backline nicely and finding the right engage for themselves, because it looks like in the previous fights they get just a bit too split up because of the arcane passage, and I'd like to see a bit more communication or synergy there when going into these team fights.
Yeah, now that means Official Hein has picked up an Atlas Pauldron, so this is really good for Elite 8. They now have 2 Atlases, and they have a Clockwork on Lyra. I was expecting that to be turned into an Echo, but apparently cooldown is better than having 2 sigils one off the other. That's just an interesting decision for the Lyra. This will be a sentry taken by Infamous. No chance for Elite 8 to actually contest this. But now Official Hein has a chance to 1v1 Spaghetti. He's got a metal jacket, but if he doesn't block Official Hein's Atlas Pauldron, then it will be pretty easy. Anime Save Me most likely to get the first Atlas off, and then Official Hein will follow through with a second. And then Spaghetti's just kind of useless until he uses his ultimate, which normally you can just walk out of. If not, they've got blocks, Black Feather with an ult, Idris also with an ult to try and dodge the Burst of Judgment from Adagio.
Yeah, you're right there. The Verse of Judgment will be quite hard to land, but I think that in most cases, Infamous are just getting by with the Benediction, Holy Nova, and Afterburn kind of combo. And you could count some of the slow coming off of Spaghetti, just when he gets that Arcane Fire off. However, I think that in these kind of situations, Spaghetti's just so focused on using those auto attacks in a lot of situations, and that's why Elite 8 have had to pick up 2 Atlas Pauldrons that you mentioned before. So you'd hope now, maybe in the next fight, they could have a chance of getting onto this Adagio and taking him out of the fight instantly, and then hoping to turn it around with the man advantage. But right now we see Infamous not being afraid, or pushing up, probably looking for a fight themselves, as Tezboy going to go in with the Benediction. There's going to be the re-engage coming out from Elite 8, and they actually push Infamous off it. I think Infamous now waiting for Benediction and Afterburn to come up once again, because we talked about how crucial it is for them to both flam these abilities.
Yeah, definitely. That was Crucible was actually used by Anime Save Me. So I don't know if Infamous saw that, but it could have been a good time for him to fight while that Crucible's on cooldown, but obviously going to be back up before the next engage happens. Glaver's still got his healing flask 20 minutes in, so that's probably... But he's probably going to get House on charges and keep it, because there's no reason to concern, and there's going to be an engage.
Yeah, there's going to be the Benediction into the Holy Nova. Lyra actually getting out second, and now we see the rest of Infamous Legion pushing through Divine Intervention onto Spaghetti to keep him alive, but Tezboy needs to worry about himself as he's getting chased down by the rest of Elite 8. Doesn't get the second Divine Intervention off in time, but Chingy Spaghetti left untouched. They go through to pick up the ace, and they're just going to, I was going to say, push through to the lane.
They could win the game, yeah, they could win the game now.
Damage there to go for the Kraken. There's going to be 22 seconds before Anime Save Me is on the fold, and I don't think Lyra alone, as good as that Imperial Sigil can be sometimes to steal Krakens, is not going to be able to have a chance in this one, and it is looking dire for Elite 8.
Yeah, I don't think Imperial Sigil is a cross-map stealing machine, but Infamous want to wait for Tezboy to respawn, so this is actually a smart play, because there's no global ultimate to steal this Kraken away, and there's no need for them to take the Kraken until Tezboy has respawned, and that's pretty clever from Infamous. But it does mean that Elite 8 have one last huzzah to try and defend this Kraken and try and stop the game going over to Infamous. I think that they could have just pushed for the win, but it would have been very risky with only 2 members. Maybe with all 3 they would have gone for the win, but with just 2 they're deciding, let's take the Kraken, we're confident we can win this team fight, let's see.
Well, let's see indeed if Elite 8 had that one last huzzah in them, and they are infused. The Idris's infusion soon to run out, however they need to make something happen here and now. I would not let that Kraken push into the base with only 2 turrets remaining. So what are Elite 8 going to do except try and burn down this Kraken right now? You see Imperial Sigil has been used, and this could be the go sign for Infamous, and there's going to be Atlas. I don't think it even hit Glaive at that distance, and they take the first turret down. Kraken going very low, however. Elite 8 might be able to turn this one around, but there's going to be the Holy Nova knocking up 2 of Elite 8's team members, and they're going to jump on Spaghetti. They find the kill, and there's going to be the kill onto, oh, not quite Tezboy, as they manage, Grace managing to pick up on Jaegers, and it looks like Chingy's still alive. He's going to be able to take back the crystal behind the base, and with the help of Kraken that was still standing, it looked close, but Infamous pushing through, playing that one strong, and finishing out 23 minutes 14 and GG.
Yeah, well played, Infamous. Tezboy did 1020 heal onto Spaghetti and then onto Chingy. to do anything against that, even with the CP just with the massive damage he's got. Official Hein didn't get a poison shiv. He didn't have the gold to get a poison shiv. He only with 3 completed items 23 minutes in, whereas Glaive got 5 completed items plus a healing flask, which was odd that Shingy kept that, but maybe as Glaive you want that 30% energy regeneration, and until he could afford a complete item like maybe the Halcyon Chargers, he went for Journey Boots instead, which was a bit odd, but he just wanted that healing flask for energy. Maybe not wanting to pick up a spell sword. I think he should have. It would have been good, but maybe again not having the gold to do so. And it was really just well played by Infamous. They got a slight lead and they kept that up. The team fights were really well coordinated. Adagio was the main damage dealer, and Glaive was just on the back line, being more of a distraction, getting those afterburns. And Adagio just deleted anyone whenever he wasn't Atlas.
Yeah, definitely well played and well executed by Infamous there. They did a great draft, I believe. Elite 8, we talked about it, and in theory, we talked of how it could work out with the CP Idris, but just because of how Infamous built, and we mentioned it earlier on with the early Aegis, that if you don't build that, you allow this CP Idris to get ahead. And I think that's really why we see more weapon power Idris than CP. CP is definitely good in those cases when you're going up against team comps that want to go those glass cannon kind of heroes, but in this situation, neither Glaive or Adagio really went to glass cannon here, and they went for some early defense. And alongside the help of that Grace with the divine intervention that you mentioned at the end game, they're just massive healing. It's really hard to go against.
Yeah, definitely. That was well played. I think the Grace really turned the fight around for Infamous. That really made them able to compete with this Idris. And as you said, the early Aegis was an extremely smart pick. It is interesting to note that out of Southeast Asia games, all the games we played, we had 5 Idrises, 3 weapon Idrises have won, 2 crystal Idrises have lost. So maybe we're not going to see Idris emphasis from Elite 8 again, because it didn't quite do enough for them. Or maybe the problem was the Black Feather, who was just unable to get the gold and get the items to be able to shut down Adagio in this team fights. But we are going to find out very soon. The draft is ready for the second game between Elite 8 and Infamous. Without further ado, let's go into the draft.
Yes, and I am wondering what we may see here, if it will be a bit of a similar. Now this time Infamous on the blue side. Will we see another Scarf ban out, or possible Celeste early ban, those caster ban? I keep calling them caster heroes, but I should say mage heroes, because there's a bit of confusion there. But otherwise, focus on the roamers, and there's going to be the Scarf. And knowing Infamous, will we see a Crow for the second one, just as they've been doing, out of, I really don't know, habit?
It could be a Cruel ban for Infamous as the second ban. I think it depends how the draft goes. They might, very possible, stick to their strategy, and it looks like Elite 8 are sticking to their strategy with, we don't want to play against Lance, so you can get Grace if you want, but we'll just secure the Catherine. Maybe they're going to go, okay, we lost because of Adagio, let's just ban Adagio and pick our Idris again. It would be very risky from Elite 8, but it's definitely a possibility. I would expect Grace picked up for Tezza Boy. It was definitely a comfort pick. It was a strong pick, and I don't see any reason to change that formula.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Grace. Just such a good roamer at the moment, but they're going to go with the Idris pickup instead. This time, taking it away from Elite 8, and we're gonna have to see what Infamous are able to do with it in their own hands now. And this leaves open that Grace pickup you talked about earlier, but do you think that it's a focus pick to go for a roamer now that haven't picked up the one on the side of Infamous?
They could go for Grace. Obviously, we saw a very similar draft to this before, where they went Glaive first and then Grace as the second pick. And I wouldn't be surprised if Celeste is banned away again. So we're seeing very similar bans to the first game. But actually going to go Taka, so they really want to play Celeste. That indicates to me that if Celeste isn't banned here, because obviously we know that Infamous like to ban Cruel as their second ban, And so they're baiting. That's a really, really well played from Elite 8. They force Infamous to ban the Celeste because Taka isn't available to counter it. And now it could be a cool pick from Elite 8. I don't think they will. I think they're more likely to go something like a Glaive or a Kestrel for the second pick.
Yeah, it's almost the team comps being swapped around here if they do decide to go for that Glaive pickup, however. And we'll just have to see about that. There's so much synergy there between the Glaive and the Grace pick on its own. It doesn't really matter which laner you pick up. Of course, we see Scarf and Celeste, two of the main CP laners, being locked out in this stage. But I think just for the synergy between Glaive and Grace, we might even see Glaive be the second pick for the side of Elite 8. Just depends how comfortable they are, but they're going to go for that Baptiste pickup instead, which you talked about being a possibility in our previous draft.
Yeah, I was not expecting a Batista this early on. I suppose that's kind of flexible because Weapon Batista got a really nice buff to his weapon ratios, so it's possible that's going to go into the lane weapon, but it's most likely to be the Crystal Power jungler, and they've still got a couple of options to put in lane. As I said, Glaive, Kestrel, Blackfeather, Ringo, Vox, all could work quite well in lane with the Batiste, and so it's really just seeing what kind of comp Infamous want to go for, and then trying to counter that. Catherine, another just good captain, no reason to not pick her up. And what kind of comp do you think Infamous are going to round this off with? Do you think they're going to go for a double dive, which Batiste counters quite well? Maybe they'll try and pick up a poke hero of their own, maybe a CP Kestrel or a CP Samuel.
Oh, it could be the likes of Samuel just for some sustain as well, to stay alive on that backline. I think with CP Kestrel it's quite risky, especially going into the Batiste and Grace, because if Grace is able to jump on you, if you don't have that active camo down already, it's going to be hard to get away. And Batiste with the bad mojo, just throwing those out, could find you while you're invisible, as well as just stopping you from being able to go invisible in the first place. I think CP Kestrel would be quite hard to play if your team doesn't have the aggression, and we talked about this before, of aggression being so important to these top teams. It just really controls a lot of the flow of the match, and it's a lot easier to be the aggressors rather than to be the team that has to counterplay to that.
Yeah, that's very true. Batiste is quite good against the CP Kestrel. If you manage to get ordained Kestrel, he's basically dead. Obviously, reflex block to run away could help, but even so, you know where Kestrel is, you know where she's going to run to. But I think I agree with you, the sustain of someone like Samuel could work, but of course there is still the option to go for more of an assassin, go for the Blackfeather. Even though Taka's been banned, there's still Koshka, and of course there is still Reza.
Yep, and so right now, I mean, you asked me why I think that the side of Infamous might finish off that conflict, but looking over to Elite 8, they've actually got quite a lot of options open to them after picking up that Batiste, which I imagine is going to be the CP jungle pickup. They've got a lot of weapon power laners that no weapon power laner has actually been banned out because it's just such a focus on these mage heroes and these supports.
Yeah, definitely. I was going through the options and there were just tons. There were almost all the weapon power laners are left, unless you count Weapon Grace and Idris, obviously.
Yeah. Weapon Grace.
Idris is CP only. He doesn't count as a weapon laner.
Well,
I think SEA disagrees with me on that one, but we're just going to have to agree to disagree on what is better. Obviously, Petal's still an option. I don't think it would be smart against Batiste, but maybe. But there was a little bit of Petal play, but they're going to go for the all dive. They're going to go Blackfeather, and Batiste is really good against this. It is a very similar comp, almost mirror comps, except for Adagio as opposed to Batiste. And so Glaive could work, but I think that it'd be much more smart to go for someone like a Vox who can just run away. And they are going to pick the Glaive. I think that's really risky. It does work well with Batiste, but it's quite hard to play. Obviously, Shingy played it well against Idris Blackfeather, but I think this will be a weapon Idris this time.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask you there. even though it's quite a similar comp to what we saw Elite 8 play last time. This time, Infamous picking up the Idris and Blackfeather and just swapping out that Lyra for Catherine instead. So it is quite an aggressive team comp there. It is just down to the question of, are we going to see a CP Idris again, or a weapon power Idris? And I think, yeah, I could agree with you this time. That's more than likely going to be a weapon power, but we can't put all our money on that just yet. We'll have to wait and see until we're in the game, because we're being proven wrong twice before.
Yeah, CP Blackfeather does quite well against Batiste because you have the poke with you on point, which kind of outpokes his bad mojo unless he's empowered. So that's a way that Blackfeather can beat Batiste as CP. But also with the CP Idris, you can outpoke Batiste with just a chakram, and then you have basic attack range longer than him. Even though that puts you within ordained range, if you are basic attacking Batiste, you still do massive damage, and you can ult out of the ordained. You are stunned, but you're still inside the ult, so it kind of works out for you. And it's going to be Spaghetti on, so it's going to be an Idris lane, weirdly enough. And I hope it's CP still, even though CP hasn't been winning. I still think that it's just stronger than weapon because they have so much CC. They have triple stun to try and stop you diving in. And so if you've got a weapon Idris, it seems to me that he's going to get stunned out of being able to get onto anyone.
Well, the thing is, on the side of Infamous, they've actually gone and put Hun Jaegers, their carry, on this Glaive. So they're putting Glaive in the lane. I thought maybe, just maybe, we'd see Batiste go into the lane for that range, especially if you're going up against an Idris in lane who has those chakrams available to them. You wouldn't really want to be up in the front line there, but both teams taking a fair few risks for themselves. And we're going to see Elite 8 going in, and this is the thing that we said with Grace pickups. They usually like to be quite aggressive early game.
Yeah, Grace is extremely powerful early game. You've got a lot of damage. If you go a Weapon Blade as well, that becomes pretty hard to contend with. And as a Grace, you're going to almost always get away. So you have that movement speed. Tezzerboy wants to steal this tree away. Not able to get it, but he'll probably just try and get a stack on Anime Save Me, who could be in a bit of trouble. This is a good rotation from Infamous Legion. They saw that Elite 8 started the Elder Tree and they're going to the backs, but they are not going to find anything except a healing Treant. So that's not a great rotation, but this could be a fight.
And there's going to be an engagement as they go in. There's going to be Ordained catching out Spaghetti, however, and they're going to be able to pick up a first blood. And, I thought I was mistaken, but Anime Save Me picks up the kill onto Chiggy, and then onto Idris, and then Chiggy gets taken down. Second, 2 early kills going over to the side of Elite 8, and we talked about that early aggression. I think Infamous were wanting to play the aggressors in this situation, but you've got to respect the Glaive and the Gwen pickup, as well as we saw Ordained play a big part in the CC chain there.
Yeah, it really was. That's the reason why Infamous decided to fight at level 2 and not level 1. I'm not quite sure. Obviously, Blackfeather's stronger at level 2, so is Idris, but you give over 3 forms of CC to Elite 8 at level 2. And so going to their backs, after you saw the backs had gone, trying to fight was just a really odd and very risky decision, because you've obviously not got a reflex block 1.5 minutes into the game. You're going to be hit by all 3 forms of CC. And I am wrong about 1.5 minutes, but 2 minutes in, Spaghetti has got a reflex block. So that is a... I've always told people that they should prioritise reflex block a bit earlier than they do. I don't think I can say that to Spaghetti in this game.
Well, some pro strats coming out there, and yeah, maybe not in that first fight, but Spaghetti definitely...
But now he will, yeah.
For up-and-coming fights. I'm surprised that if Spaghetti wanted to go for this CP interest, but we'll have to hold on to that for just a second as we see another fight breaking out, which might go in favor of Infamous this time. We'll have to see, as a lot of damage is being traded over. Tezzerboy going very low, uses for Stormguard to get out there, but no kills going over this time. And yeah, my thoughts on if Spaghetti wanted to go for the CP interest was, why didn't Spaghetti start building more crystal bits early? Because CP, it's so important to get those items and get that damage early on the table. Do you think that is smart they went for this reflex so early on?
I think if he'd have used it in that team fight that just happened, then sure, that's a fine decision to help you to get away. But the fact that he didn't use it, TeslaBoy is going to fall to the after. Healing Flask OP, not quite able to keep him alive. But I think the fact that he didn't use it before he then next shopped meant that he could have just got a bit of crystal power, dealt more damage, and now picked up a block ready for about 4 minutes in. But it's not the worst idea, because up against Triple CC, it's kind of never too early to build a block, because they have at level 2 got 3 stuns, so you just need to be careful of that. And a little bit of turret poke, but not going to be too much.
Jaeger's Heinz Spaghetti back under the turret, dealing a fair bit of damage in return as well, and does get a lot of broken heart stacks on them, but Anime Save going in big with the Holy Nova, gets the knock up. Jaeger's gonna finish off for the kill, and that's 4 kills already 4 minutes in, going over to the side of Elite 8. A very different game this time, and you can see Elite 8 much more comfortable in the draft they have chosen for themselves.
Yeah, definitely very aggressive, and Spaghetti, he's built the earliest reflex block but hasn't used it yet, and he's not like he's been out of options. He got hit by the afterburn, he got hit by the Ordained in the first fight. He's just deciding that he's saving that block for something very important, but it's just not being used at all. And he's actually having a bit of trouble farming early on. Now it's catching up to about 10 a minute, and it looks like Elite 8 wants to go for another fight.
Yeah, there's going to be more Ordained to keep Chingy in the range of that afterburn as they go in with the engagement. It looks like they're not going to be able to find any kills this time, though, but you can see very good synergy there between the CC coming out from Elite 8 and that initial Ordained just kept Chingy with the decision. Does he Rose offensive out of it, or does he, stand in there and take it? And by standing there, Jaeger's got close enough to land the afterburn. If Anime Save had landed the Holy Nova, they may have been able to pick up a kill.
Yeah, that really was a tough position for Chingy to be in. You don't want to just waste ult charges every time Batista ordains you, because then you'd be out of ult charges and still have Ordains ready. Spaghetti wants to go home to get divergent paths. Elite 8 left him because they're pushing the wave very aggressively, and it could be a bit of damage onto this turret.
Yes, they are looking for some damage. There's going to be the afterburn to keep TeslaBoy away, but Anime Save has not turned away just yet. Used to knock up TeslaBoy, and look at the damage going down onto TeslaBoy as they keep them trapped once again in that Ordained. It's kind of a situation you have to fight or die, because there's no way out of that unless you're Black Feather using one of those Rose offensives, or if you're Spaghetti with the early reflex. However, right now it actually has been used early on, and it looks like TeslaBoy more than likely going to go for the second item into a Crucible after building that fountain already.
Yeah, most likely. I think it's very important to have at least a reflex block for TeslaBoy himself, so that if a situation like that arises again, he's caught out in an Ordained, he can just block and walk out without taking too much damage. It's interesting that we've seen Shatterglass first Spaghetti. I was expecting a Frostburn just to slow the glaive, help him deal the damage, but maybe because Spaghetti is behind on CS, the team is behind in gold, he's decided to go as much damage as possible to try and win a team fight.
Yep, and right now, although they're overall behind in CS, you can see a fair disparity between Official Hein and Chingy, as Official Hein sitting at 42 over to the 34, and then Spaghetti at 60 and Jaeger's at 71, so they're a fair bit behind. And right now with that gold payout going over to the side of Elite 8, who's now 18.5k over to 14.2, I think, yes, in terms of gold and the way the game is flowing so far, it's going to be tough for them. But I think if Infamous can fight this out towards the late game and not fall off too much, you're right, they might be able to pull it back here, and that's why going for these offensive items early might just pay out. It's a bit riskier, but it's probably the strat that they have to do in this situation.
Yeah, this is almost identical to the previous game where we've got a Beatrice who's behind and needs to just wait to late game and try and turn it around. But now we've got whether Elite 8 can do the same thing that Infamous did in the last game and keep the snowball rolling with the glaive. Just got to rotate up the lane, try and get a good afterburn. Batista's picked up an infusion, so that's good for Official Hein to start fighting. Jaeger's hasn't quite got one yet, and TeslaBoy only with 6 stacks of Captain of the Guard, only getting an extra 12 armor and 12 shield. which isn't that much really on a Catherine. Even though they're behind, you'd expect in team fights you're going to be getting sacks quite often. Now Infamous trying to defend this turret Elite 8 looking siege.
I think it's quite risky for TezaBoy to get up in the face of Elite 8 at this stage to get those stacks for the captain of the guard. If you want to be... it's whoever you go on in the enemy team of Elite 8, they've got some sort of CC that if you get caught out by that and your Storm Guard isn't up, you're going to end up taking a lot of damage. But right now we see Infamous actually pushing Elite 8 off of their turret, which is what they need to do here, but not really able to follow through with any kills afterwards. And we're gonna have to see whether they respond to Elite 8 stealing some of their jungle there. Elite 8 just continuing to push their lead slowly, and I think be very comfortable to go into a fight at this point. You talked about the early infusion that was picked up on Official Hein, and right now Official Hein can sit on the backline for the most part and just ordain anyone that gets close to him and then put the damage down onto them.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is being a bit passive from Elite 8. Whether that's a bad thing to discuss. I think they could go for the gold mine now, and then that forces either a slight gold advantage for them or forces a fight where Spaghetti is just happy to farm as much as possible. He's already got 2 items and a minion can be used, so that does imply either a sentry or a gold mine from Elite 8, and they're going to start the gold mine. This is good. They want to force a fight, and I'm pretty sure that Infamous are going to try and just steal this. They've got a Chakram, they've got an on point, they've got a Storm Guard from Catherine. It's a good chance Idris going to go with the shotgun. It is enough. Easy steal for Idris, and the Elite 8 Official Hein is annoyed.
Yeah, Fashion Shade was used in response, and Elite 8 are annoyed and the damage coming out from them, however, as they push the enemy team of Infamous, and they probably take back more than they lost in that fight. They pick up a sentry on the way and take down TezaBoy and Spaghetti. Chingy, however, able to get out of that one because of the Rosa offensive, so it's not going to be the ace. Yet you can see that great game sense coming out from Infamous there to realize that the gold mine was being taken, and even better for them to be able to get it for themselves. That's, I believe it wasn't the full gold payout. I didn't quite catch the number, but I believe it would have been around 300 or so going over to their team. And we now see them, they're seeing about 5k behind, 21.9 over to 26.7 on the side of Elite 8. So it's not lost just yet, but once again, you don't really see Infamous in a spot to engage a fight, whereas Elite 8 more than happy to just go right in. And you were talking about perhaps they're playing a bit too passive as well, and it would be a bit better to see Elite 8 try and make more plays happen here, which we might just see as Anime Saved Me going in with a Holy Nova. There's going to be more ordained onto Black Feather, however he's able to escape up with barely any health. Elite 8 going to be able to finish off that turret. Official Hein gets jumped on by the Shimmer Strike, however Divine Intervention going to be used onto Hun Jaegers, who got stunned up for just a second by Official Hein, turning around with that ordained, opening up a window for Hun Jaegers to get onto that backline and pick up a kill, but gets traded out for the Black Feather, and now it's going to be Baptiste taking down the Idris and Grace picking up that ace onto the Catherine. They're going to push through for the anchor turret of Infamous, and this is more what we wanted to see coming through from Elite 8, especially being 1 to 10, 12 minutes in.
Grace with the ace, with the mace, and the Atlas Pulse just, it turned the fight around because Chingy got stuck in an ordained, and you were exactly what we talked about before. You don't know what to do. Do I run or die? And the answer was both. He tried to run, he got after end into the took massive damage, and Shingy fell, but then Spaghetti, building up broken mid stacks, managed to take down Glaive with some basics, but then Anime Saved Me with the Atlas Pulsion on Idris just saved Official Hein's life so easily, and it was just, after that Idris was just useless. He'd used his Chakram, had no ultimate, had no A, he was just standing there waiting for Baptiste to kill him because he couldn't basic attack. And yeah, Anime Saved Me really the MVP, and they want another goal because why not? Elite 8 know that Infamous is nowhere near trying to steal this, and it's just a little bit more gold. They're probably going to go for a crystal sentry now.
Yep, I mean, why not? Indeed, they're going to do so, taking that gold, just further pushing that lead. Now sitting at 33.7 to 26.3k on the side of Infamous, and right now, really, they just need to look for someone to step out plays on the side of Infamous Legion. And that is going to be up to Anime Save Me to find. Doesn't use the Holy Nova early, being very patient on holding back on that one and waiting for the right opportunity.
They definitely don't want to go too aggressive. Elite 8 obviously want to rotate down to this Sentry, because if they do that, then I think that's the at least second life, third. And so that's really good for Elite 8, and now Infamous Legion wants to fight. That was second Sentry down.
Yeah, Anime Save Me once again jumping over the Benediction, but not following. There's going to be Tezenboy caught out. Wow, the damage coming out by Hunyegas. Shay pushing Idris back into the wall is actually going to be enough to kill them. However, Chingy meanwhile jumped onto the Batiste and manages to trade that out. However, you can see that Infamous now on the run are going to be in a bit of trouble here. However, before Tezenboy died, was able to use that Fountain of Renewal. It might be enough to keep Chingy alive here, but Hunyegas is on the chase with that Afterburn up in just a second. However, Boots being used by Chingy. It looks like he should be able to escape from here, but Rose Offensive isn't up. Chingy stayed around and gets punished for it. That is not your jungle anymore, especially with no Crystal Sentry in there at the moment. Hunyega's just going to find the kill, was thirsting for blood, maybe even more as he rotates up to lane. Finds Spaghetti taking so much damage, is going to use the Shroud Step to try get away, but Glaive just taking him down instantly as soon as he's out there, and they might even find that ace onto Tezenboy. Chingy is up in 3 seconds. How long can they stay alive? There's the double kill, there's the ace, and Elite 8, they've got the aced up minion wave. They're pushing towards Kraken. There's only Chingy at the base to respond to this one, and I can imagine they're going to be able to take this without any contest, turn around, finish off the last Crystal Sentry, and then it's just looking like there's no real way for Infamous to come back from this one.
Yeah, definitely. It was very interesting. Shingy, I'd probably be quite annoyed if I was Shingy. He managed to stall for long enough so that it wasn't an ace. Then it just went, oh no, you died in the jungle. Okay, let me just go and push this lane up. And then of course the Hunyegas just rotating from behind. No chance for Spaghetti to even get close. And as you said, in the first fight, the one that began it, Hunyegas just with massive damage. Now he's got his block, he's got 4 damage items. Afterburn's going to come over the wall most likely. But they're not quite in range, so he's just going to wait. And I think Elite 8 just have to not dive too deep, and they should be absolutely fine to finish this game. Interesting. A bit of hope there.
Yep, and right now they're not going in too aggressive. You can see Anime Save Me just baiting out the Blast Tremor, and this could be the sign for Elite 8 to go in, but it's going to be Infamous who wants to engage, and Hunyega's on that backline, uses the Afterbird to get over the wall, picks up the kill onto the Idris, and now is going to get taken down by that Black Feather, who's doing their best to fight, but it's not going to be enough as Batiste still alive, and leaving that Batiste alive until late is also a problem, as we're going to find out now. Tezenboy caught up in the Ordained, and that's going to be the ace to finish it off. They managed to take the turret and the crystal with ease. That's Elite 8 taking the second game. GG, well played, and what a turnaround from the first matchup.
Yeah, Elite 8 able to secure the second game, taking this to 1-1. So we're looking forward to the third round. I think that it's so odd to say that CP Idris has a 0% win rate, 0 out of 3, and the weapon's got 100%. Given what everyone else thinks about Idris is that CP is just better than weapon, but clearly this isn't working out in Southeast Asia, so I would be very surprised if we see an A-side first pick Idris, which is going to be CP again, just because between these two teams, someone just goes weapon glaive and you get countered. And the Atlas Pauldron from Anime Save Me was very important, but the problem with what Infamous was trying to do is they dive in on someone, they might get a kill, but then they'd leave Batiste alive or they'd leave Glaive alive at full health, and then there's really no chance for them to turn that around. So well played by Elite 8, and I'm really looking forward to see what's going to happen in this third game.
Yeah, and I was just looking there at the team comp of Elite 8, where they picked up the Glaive and the Grace, which were obvious good synergy pickups, but the Batiste pickup was something that we didn't really look for because we were so focused on what CP laners could really complete this kind of team comp, but instead they just decided to put Glaive in the lane early on, and by picking up Batiste in the jungle, the kit just worked out so well, and it's one of those CP heroes that really complements together the overall playstyle, engage, and I guess you could see for a lot of times whenever they were being engaged on, if Batiste wasn't focused down, he is just able to survive until the end of the fight and continue to deal out damage and CC. But it just worked out so well for Elite 8, and I've got to give it to them there for doing such a good draft in that second match.
Yeah, I think the triple CC comp that Elite 8 decided to go for, it really was unexpected from Infamous. I know they had a Black Feather to try and counter CC, but they just weren't prepared at that level 2 fight for how much lockdown they were going to receive. And it was definitely just from that level 2 fight that Elite 8 managed to win. They just started a snowball. They kept CCing someone down, and it was really well played. They used Ordained expertly as well. They would ordain someone and then wait. They see what's going to happen. If they just block and walk away, then they'd be, okay, we'll wait. We'll just catch you again in 10 seconds. Whereas if they didn't block, they would go, right, time, afterburn, Holy Nova, let's lock them down and kill them. So that was really well played by Elite 8.
Yeah, so now that Elite 8 are going to be on the red side in the next draft. Actually, wait, I correct myself there. Elite 8 going to be back on the blue side. Do you think both teams really going to be fighting for this initial Grace pickup? Because I think it's Grace that really is the, I would say, the pioneer into how these team comps work, because it's just such a good engage comp. You could see Catherine just not able to do enough, even though Catherine, known for being such an offensive, great Roma pick usually. Right now, there's just too much damage being thrown out and too much CC that Catherine wasn't really able to step in there and do anything.
Yeah, very true. I think that Grace is very likely to be prioritized, maybe even just banned away on B side. Maybe we're going to see less of the mages and more emphasis on the captains, because Glaive can do really well against mages as well, can do, or casters as you like to call them. And so I think that there isn't really that much need for the Glaive, for the Scarf ban and the Celeste ban, if you can pick up the Grace Glaive combo, or even just the Glaive Adagio worked really well. And I don't think that they need to be priority banned as much as someone like Grace does, especially on B side.
Yep. Okay, so we will have to see about that as we wait for the teams to get ready for this third round. But obviously, first match going over to, just to remind you viewers, first match between these two teams went to Infamous. The second went to Elite 8. So let us know in the chat which team you guys are going to be cheering for this third one, because it really could go either way, as we've seen both games being a bit of a roll for either side.
Yeah, hashtag Inf win or hashtag E8 win. I really don't know how to call this. We said at the start that this game was going to be extremely even and it would be down to draft as to whoever won. And we just saw two almost identical drafts. And weirdly enough, the team that got the better draft won the game. And so now I really hope that, because the way it's going to look like it's going to work, the Infamous are going to take the third game if draft just swaps again. So Elite 8 are the team that needs to change what they do. They cannot first pick Idris and expect the game just to flow naturally and they're going to win. They have to either first ban Glaive, first ban Grace, or not pick CP Idris. Otherwise, we're just going to see a repeat of both games. Yeah,
well, what we've seen between both these teams so far, whether it will be that Grace ban or not, is the fact that they've been going for those mage bans. So I'm surprised that it's not going to be that they will let the Grace go through. I think one team is going to end up with this Grace and neither wants to ban it.
Yeah, very possible, but we are going to find out now for the third game. Draft is ready, so we're heading on into the draft. And first ban, I mean, it could be Lance again. They could just go for the safe draft they've done every time. But yeah, Grace is definitely going to be the priority.
Yep, and with that, there's going to be an Idris ban to start off between these two teams today, at least. We have not seen an Idris ban yet. We have seen a Lance ban, however, but that leaves Grace open on the table for the side of Elite 8 to pick up, and I would see no reason for them to not do that, especially with Idris already banned out.
Yeah, I definitely agree. No reason to leave Grace open because there isn't the priority pick of Idris for them. They've banned it away. They could possibly first pick someone like a Scarf or a Celeste, and then hope that Grace isn't banned. But I think you can counter somebody like Celeste or Scarf with Black Feather or Taka, and it's impossible for Infamous to pick one, pick a mage, ban the other mage, and then pick up an assassin, because there's always another assassin left. But they are going to go, we want to pick Scarf, and now the best play probably from Infamous is just pick their Grace, and then if Celeste is left open, go for it. If not, just pick up a Glaive, and then Infamous have got a fantastic comp. They got Grace and Glaive again, which we already saw was extremely strong. But if Glaive is banned, then they get Celeste for free. So I think Infamous could be in a really good position here if they just first pick Grace.
Yep, I definitely agree with you there. We saw Scarf and Lance being the two first initial bans between the teams in the previous matches, but they're going to leave Grace open and go for the Celeste pick. They might not even ban Grace, or they may. I don't see why they should. However, there are other roamers with good stun and CC capabilities, so it could be an option to go for the Grace ban themselves. But as you said, they could just try and limit the options of, Elite 8 only gonna have this one ban, and they now have to choose: do we ban the Glaive or do we ban the Grace, is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, because Glaive can also be flexed as a captain, so if they leave that open, that still leaves a weapon power laner that Infamous could pick. So if they ban the Grace, then Glaive's a good flex pick. But they're going to go for the cool ban, leaving both open. I would expect Grace from Elite 8, but obviously, from Infamous as their second pick. But again, it wouldn't be too much of a surprise if they go for the Glaive now, because then they still leave themselves able to pick the captain or a weapon carry as their last pick, as opposed to if they pick Grace, they force themselves to last pick a weapon carry.
You are right there. But however, if they do decide to go Glaive, what they have done for themselves. Now, whether Grace gets picked up on the side of Elite 8, they still have a lot of good options like this Arden, who synergize well with the Celeste, because we're being so focused on who synergizes well in these really engage-heavy comps and stun CC kind of comps. But Arden has the zoning ability with the Gauntlet there, as well as, I guess, the stun if you're able to land it correctly. And I think that just flows very well with the Celeste that they've got already picked up for them.
Yeah, definitely Arden could be a viable captain. Almost all the captains available apart from Lance, so it really is down to whatever team's comfortable on. Arden obviously works extremely well with a Scarf, and they're going to pick it up, so that's a reasonably good pick. But obviously you're now leaving Infamous to just get their comfort pick of Grace last pick, and so they just go Lane, Glaive and a Jungle Celeste. That's why the flex pick Glaive was good, because they also, Infamous left it open so that if their preferred captain was let through the entire draft, they can still last pick it. And I'd expect a Kestrel to be picked up in the lane, but they could also go, well, Black Feather's been banned, so there aren't that many weapon power laners left. Obviously Vox could work against Celeste, could work quite well, and we haven't seen a lot of Ringo, but that's again, I still think Kestrel is the most likely pick for Elite 8.
Yes, we will have to see there. And I was actually looking for that Arden pickup as a pickup to finish off the team comp for the side of Infamous, but I guess it works in a very similar fashion, because Scarf and Celeste are quite similar heroes, both being mages in that sense. And for a lot of yesterday, we saw them being banned out, and this time Scarf getting some breathing room to be picked up. We'll have to see what the side of Elite 8 can do there on the Scarf. And more than likely, I'd agree with you that the Grace will be the final pick up for the side of Infamous, just for a bit of comfort.
Yeah, I definitely think that Grace would be just work fine. I highly doubt we're going to see lane weapon Grace taken away from them, because you have to pick a weapon power carry, and I highly doubt that Elite 8 are going to risk it and take that very out of the meta pick just to try and deny it away. With Catherine still open, it doesn't seem like that would be necessary. So other than weapon Kestrel, perhaps they could go for the Vox, because that is more comfortable. We know that Elite 8 do like to play their Vox And so that's definitely a possibility. We are going to find out what that last pick is going to be, and I still think that despite anything that Elite 8 are going to pick, we're still going to see a Grace last pick for Infamous.
Yep, and so we're just weighing on it here. There's for Arden, and so back to where we were previously, and quite a few options still left open here. I mean, the Black Feather was banned out, however, which could be preferred. Or we've seen quite recently Black Feather picked up a lot in the jungle slot, but they're going to go with that Grumpjaw instead.
Grumpjaw did get a nice buff. I was considering talking about him, but didn't think that anyone would be risky enough to actually play Grumpjaw. Did get a nice buff to his weapon power ratios and length duration of his hangry, which is extremely good. I think Grumpjaw will play pretty well in the jungle. They're probably going to go Tension Bow Double Tyrants in terms of the build, and now they're a bit stuck because Grace is quite good, but not particularly against Grumpjaw. You want someone who can do a lot of basic attacks to shred Grumpjaw's living armor. And so, as a captain, maybe a Lyra could work better because Lyra's going to get loads of basic attacks on Grumpjaw, and that will decrease his tankiness. But they're going to go for the Finn. So that's a big tank, big troll who cannot be eaten, perhaps to try and body block if Grumpjaw decides to use his stuff in close quarters. And also, obviously, there's likely to be an Echo on that Force to Court to try and pull Scarf in towards Glaive.
Yeah, that Finn pickup, I think just a very good response to the side of Elite 8's draft, especially with that Grumpjaw, knowing that Grumpjaw has to come in close if he wants to do anything. Once that Quibble gets overdriven, they're going to have that stun available to them, and with the level 6, they should be able to pull Scarf out of position, especially with... it's going to be tough to say whether they'll be able to kill the kill. They have a lot of CC coming out from the side of Infamous, which seems to be the playstyle they're very used to playing and comfortable with. So even with this Finn pickup to finish it off, I think that they should be able to do well for themselves, and I'm preferring the look of Infamous's team comp for this draft here, and looking there that they have the Core Collapse, Afterburn, and Quibble available. There's only so much Arden can save Scarf from, and well, what Scarf can save himself from with the Reflex block.
Yeah, I think that the Finn pick, I said at the start of the day that Finn is one of those heroes that teams haven't had that much practice on, but it does mean that obviously maybe they have practiced it a lot more recently because Finn has seen a little bit of an emergence to be played. I still think that it's going to be hard to play this Finn correctly because when you use your Echo on the Force to Chord, it becomes really obvious when you're going to pull because you pull, it gets blocked, and then you Echo it and you just pull straight away again. So obviously the carries can block that quite easily. But I think it may be a better idea for Finn to try and pull Grumpjaw away from Celeste as opposed to trying to pull Scarf on top of him. Because if he uses it to initiate the fight, then Celeste could be out of position if Finn catches Grumpjaw. Whereas if Finn uses that pull while Grumpjaw is trying to dive Celeste, that could really hinder his progress and make it so that Glaive's just 1v1 in Grumpjaw. It shouldn't be too difficult as long as they've got the Quibble to try and stun Grumpjaw and try and reduce those living armor stacks as much as possible.
Yes, I see that strategy being very applicable in this situation here. Very good insight to that kind of situation that we might see more than likely. We've seen before just how powerful these Glaives can get. Early game, just into mid, great transition. And I think that if you can leave Chingy in that situation where he's in a 1v1, is more than likely going to be able to win it out.
Yeah, and Infamous going for the aggressive rotation. It turns out, as B-side, you have to go for the Elder Trinket. That's every game so far in this series. And Finn is just having a little tussle with Arden in the lane. It looks like what SCMC wants is that captains now rotate into jungle more, but we've now turned captains into laners. As you can see, both captains seeing how well they can last hit with in the absence of their laners. Scarf's going to do a little bit of damage, and it looks like both Actually, Shingy's going to come up today. I did not expect Shingy to be this aggressive. There's the boots. Everyone's got boots on the side of Infamous. That's a CC chain. That will be a dead Hunyega's first blood going over to Infamous. It was interesting at the start that all three members picked up boots. That was to try and get to the Elder Treant as quickly as possible. Speaking of the Elder Treant, they're going to do another rotation down to it. And obviously on Glaive, it is vital to have those boots because you just boots in, easy afterburn to get Scarf out of position, and the CC chain, Celeste can land her core collapse. And it's really good start from Infamous. It looks like they're going to go for another jungle rotation. Both laners just rotating through the jungle together. Spaghetti already on 20 CS, so there's an awful lot of what is it? Hyper carry being used on Spaghetti. He's got every single jungle farm apart from 3. So the CS is pretty even between the two teams, but Infamous are just going for a complete focus onto just Spaghetti.
Yeah, and I mean, why not? Especially if you're not putting Spaghetti into that jungle role, you really want to be trying to get them up to that level 8 as soon as possible. And when going up and against Scarf is definitely a bit of a race there between the two carries. And we now see Scarf respectively going to the backs of Elite 8 and taking those away. But right now, you're right. Spaghetti just ahead that much more. And especially when they're getting this mid Treant is going to help them just that little bit more.
Yeah, it's very passive from both teams. Obviously, when the mages are let through, when Scarf and Celeste are not picked or banned, this does imply that we're going to have a very passive, very waiting game to see who can farm up better, who can rotate stronger and faster. That's why he's trying to stall the wave for Spaghetti, but it looks like he's going to be unable to keep all of them. And obviously, it's important to get as much CS and ambient gold on your jungle and your laner as you can. But the problem with doing that is you leave a possible first turret for your enemy to get. And Finn has got as much CS as Glaive at the moment. So, yeah, Spaghetti's really got to play this as well as he can. And I would be very surprised if Tezzaboy doesn't use the pull to keep Spaghetti alive, because it's just so obviously a hyper carry comp at the moment. And that if Spaghetti dies, their comp falls apart. Whereas if Official Hein doesn't actually steal that Treant away, but whereas if Hunyega's dies, Official Hein has still got a bit of farm, so he can still actually try and kill Spaghetti and Chingy.
Yeah, and now we see Glaive picking up that tension bow, and you're right, it is more Chingy on that Glaive is going to have to be there more to for the afterburn for sake, and just the early game just burst damage there from that tension bow. But towards the late, I could see Chingy maybe being a bit more especially if things start to go in favor of Infamous, Chingy to be a bit more of a damage dealer in the team of Infamous and another second threat they have to deal with. So I would say towards late, maybe Spaghetti, even if they do go down, leaving Chingy alive on that backline could be very devastating as well.
And that is true. Tension bow proc can really hurt if the team fight goes on for quite a while. Glaive's going to get multiple tension bow procs, and so obviously that's something you need to be worried about. And it's just really odd to see Spaghetti 5 minutes in is already on 63 farm, and he'll be on 70 pretty soon. He also is waiting for this Treant to spawn. There it is. And Finn is being the new laner for Infamous. He's already on 8 CS, probably going to get 9 by securing this 1 minion, and he's definitely trying his best, trying out for the new laner position of Infamous. And it looks like Elite 8 wants to push this turret.
Yeah, there's going to be a fair bit of aggression onto that turret with all 3 members of Elite 8 up in the lane, but Infamous responding to it now. Spaghetti and Chingy finish clearing that jungle. Might be looking for some return aggression because they know Hunyega's is going to want to go back to the jungle. However, Hunyega's staying to defend this turret, making the better decision, doesn't want to give over too much early damage just yet. And Infamous realizing that they're not going to waste any more time here and going straight back to a rotation, but both teams just putting so much pressure on the lanes right now. I think it's really a good strategy to abuse when you know that the laners always want to be going back to the jungle to get hyper carried, that you're going to have an easier time putting pressure onto the lane and pushing for some early turret damage. And right now we see Afterburn going in. Quibble does miss from Tezaboy. However, Anime Save Me able to get out there nice and safely. Meanwhile, Official Hein waiting in the wings. It's going to go on to Chingy. It's going to use Stuffed as well and pulling him back into the rest of the team called by Elite 8. Goop was put down instantly, followed up by the Spitfire. Great synergy there coming out by Elite 8 as they pick up a double kill and move onto this turret. Spaghetti left alone. What can they do? They use the Core Collapse. They're trying to get away with the Heliogenesis. They managed to trade out the kill with Grumpjaw, but it's going to be the ace and more than likely the first turret.
Basically, Scarf was trying to 1v1 the turret versus the turret barrier, and Hunyegers took like 3 turret shots and 3 basic attacks just trying to take it down, and the barrier went nope, wait for your minions and then you can take me down. But yeah, Spaghetti, even though he was being hyper carried, hadn't quite spent the gold to be able to pretty much 1v3 at the end there. I was very surprised when Official Hein ate Xingyi. There was a Core Collapse was available for Spaghetti, and Spaghetti just didn't use it to try and keep Xingyi alive. So Xingyi obviously put down on top of the goop, that was then ignited, Xingyi deleted instantly. I was very surprised Spaghetti didn't use that Core Collapse to try and keep Xingyi alive, because I don't think there was a Crucible, but there definitely wasn't a block on Official Hein, so they would have had to use Crucible just to stop the Core Collapse.
Tezaboy will find Official Hein, but the Quibble doesn't land, and there's no stun up on that yet, as Tezaboy's still sitting back at level 5, but we'll see Spaghetti already hitting that level way is going to have extra range, and Hunyegers respectively as level way as well. But it's going to be Anime Save Me who already goes level 6, going in with the Gauntlet, manages to catch out Chingy, but isn't going to really get the kill there. And in fact, Official Hein taking more damage than anyone in that team fight, and Elite 8 being forced to back out of there. And right now, it looks like you saw that was definitely down to vision, which now Tezaboy realizing that buying up a lot of flares does not want to let Grumpjaw to easily get onto the backline as they were before, because there's just such a good, I guess, synergy between Elite 8. Once the Stuffed was landed, you could see the goop went down exactly in the right place and was ignited instantly as soon as Chingy came out. So he got that ignite damage as well as the burn damage, got taken down instantly, and it just opened up a good path for them to go on through without having to worry about getting afterburned out of the way. They could just go on through with the Dragon's Breath and push their way through to get that first turret. Meanwhile, while keeping their own turret fairly healthy at point.
Yeah, definitely. Infamous are behind on the objective, but 9 minutes, 3 completed items for Spaghetti. This is why they've decided to hyper carry him, so that he can get as much damage as possible. And it looks like he's probably going to try and get a piercing shard before 10 minutes, maybe. But then again, Hunyegers has seen what's been going on and has copied it, basically. He's just copy-paste. If you're going to take all the farm away from your glaive, I'm going to take all the farm away from my Grumpjaw. And now it becomes 2 hyper carry mages up against 2 kind of useless supports with CC. So Grumpjaw's got a Stuffed, Glaive's just got an Afterburn, and apart from that, they're not really damage dealers. So this is a really interesting game, and I wonder what's going to happen once Spaghetti gets fully built, because then Xingyi's going to want to take all of the farm, and there's going to be a fight breaking out.
Oh, it looks like a beard poke going on to Tezaboy there, and Tezaboy could look to use this Forced Accord, just like how the enemy team Elite 8 put their own CC into chain here. It could be very well used with Collapse coming out from Spaghetti, but instead they're going to push for some damage onto this turret, and I think right now Spaghetti being 143 farm at 10 minutes in has more than enough to take this turret. You can see the Supernova is doing a fair bit there, and Anime Save Me gonna respond that one with a Gauntlet followed up by the Dragon's Breath, but Hunyeg is just gonna get punted back in the meanwhile. But see Glaive standing in the goop. It's not a good place to be. You're getting burnt alive. Spaghetti trying to do what they can. Might be able to get a trade out for this one. They managed to pick up the kill onto Grumpjaw, almost getting Anime Save Me. They get the double, and it's going to be Finn to pick up the Scarf. And this was what I was wondering. You can see, although Hunyegers was like, okay, you did this, I'm going to copy paste you. By copying, it was still Hanjegers was on the back foot. They were behind just a step, and Spaghetti already had, I'm not sure, Tattoo Boots didn't really matter in that situation, but you can see overall the item trap that there's the fusion that Spaghetti had in that pocket, and Hanjegers did not. Therefore, winning out that fight overall, and I think just landing more effective hits and that Eve keeping them alive in that situation.
You're wondering if be able to make a trade. She did a bit more than that and just got a triple kill. And I don't know what Official High needs to do, because he ate up Celeste, which is exactly what you want to do. But then Celeste just Eve of Harvest regenerated so much health and dealt immense amounts of damage. It looks like Celeste is not able to get Broken Myth just yet. Probably going to be able to pick it up after this wave, so that's going to be a 12-minute Broken Myth, 4 damage items on Spaghetti, and that is something to be worried about, because we see the Clockwork third on Celeste just to try and get as many helos down as possible. But here we go, so Spaghetti infused Broken Myth. This is going to be a fight for Infamous, and I don't see them losing it unless some blocks are missed. Weirdly enough, there's a Aegis on Tezzerboy and no Crucible, and Spaghetti hasn't got a block. So the Gauntlet, Spaghetti will be trapped in, and the Stuffed can't be blocked by Spaghetti. So what do you think of that idea, my question? Obviously for the extra barrier on Finn's B, which is why he's got Aegis.
Yeah, I did realize that pickup of the Aegis, and it is a bit interesting to see Tezzerboy do so, of course, as you mentioned, for the extra barrier. However, it leaves Spaghetti in a very risky position by not having their own block up. Well, we see the reflex block just picked up then, but previously, if they had got themselves in a team fight and stuff was landed on Spaghetti, I believe that would be the only way Elite 8 could turn that around, if Official Heim was able to get onto that backline and then bring Celeste back towards the rest
you say that, but that's exactly what happened in the previous team fight. Spaghetti was eaten up, they killed Glaive, they didn't kill Finn because Finn takes too long, and then once Spaghetti was put out of the Stuffed Ultimate, he just destroyed everyone, because he was put out on top of Scarf, but Celeste just had more damage having that infusion, and it was really odd. But I think what they need to do is they need to eat Glaive. Obviously you can't eat Finn, so they have to eat Glaive, get rid of that CC, and just try and dive Celeste as much as possible.
Yeah, what you could see in that situation, it was Glaive who was standing in the goop. Celeste was actually just around it and managing to stay alive, although Celeste was taking a lot of damage overall. And you're right that, Forster Core going out isn't going to land, but the Solar Storm will take Scarf out instantly, and I think that's something that Hanjegers didn't really think about when copying that build, that Celeste has a global ult, and when you're building no defense, either of you, well, guess who's going to get hurt more across the map and out of range?
Yeah, 707 damage on the Supernova, and then Spaghetti firing out the ultimate. It's just 183 CS. He's about 13 a minute. I don't think he's quite at 14 a minute as he was 10 minutes in, but he's going to be fully built now. He can afford to get an Aegis. Spaghetti can afford that with 1,550 gold and almost get Journey Boots. So after that, I assume the CS will start going to Shingy, but it looks like they want to fight.
Well, Anime Seimi with the Gauntlet over the wall. It's going to be massive, trapping out Infamous as they get pushed down by the Echo Gauntlet as well. And Elite 8 are going to go in for a possible kill, but the Solar Storm is massive as Celeste just pushing through with that. Going to pick up the double kill onto Hanjegers and Anime Seimi, and Official Hein left on their own. Core collapse over the wall for the triple, for the ace. GG. Why I say GG. It just feels like that right now.
Fair enough. That is just Spaghetti playing so well on the Celeste. I think the first gauntlet was really good. Trap Celeste inside, force her to block out. The second gauntlet, I know exactly what Anime Sabi was trying to do. He was trying to get 2 gauntlets down in the Venn diagram sort of shape so that he was inside both of them. They were both active. But in doing that, he didn't trap Spaghetti inside the second gauntlet. And so it was just a waste. He should have cut his losses on the first gauntlet, said, okay, I forced a block, just run out of that gauntlet and use the gauntlet much more aggressively to get Spaghetti inside, who is now fully built 15 minutes in on Celeste. That is not something I've ever said before, and that is extremely impressive. 200 CS almost already. And Elite 8 try and take this Kraken down.
Well, the thing is, we saw it from early on of Infamous, just they were already on the first foot to be the ones to go and hyper carry well, their carry, of course, and that's why they had this initial lead, and they're being ahead just that little bit more, and it's helped them so much in these team fights that really Elite 8 can't push back when you're going for hyper carry versus hyper carry. If we go back to this kind of meta, that you know it's just which carry gets the items ahead, and right now it's that Celeste who's sitting on the Journey boots.
Jaeger's, what are you doing?
Ooh, but Jaeger's gonna get caught up with the snipe, not quite. It's not gonna happen twice, but Official Hein is going to take a lot of damage there. They did manage to defend this Kraken off. They just need to go back to base, but 795 damage is gonna be massive. Stuff just gonna land on Spaghetti, but it's not going to be enough, as Spaghetti just gonna get knocked out of that one and takes the kill onto Official Hein. Anime Save Me cannot save the base, however, and the Crystal gonna fall to Infamous Legion in that third match. GG, well played, and a very impressive show of the old hyper carry strat we used to see a lot of.
Yeah, that was definitely an intense build-up. Both teams just going, right, we'll just stall the wave, go get backs together, and then it took, I think, 2 rotations for Scarf to notice, wait a minute, Celeste is getting all of this farm. That's not fair, I want some farm as well. So they just got all the farm, but in the end, the Supernova just did so much more work than Spitfire Goop combo could have, just because of how the comps worked out. Grumpjaw wasn't any real threat, so as soon as Grumpjaw went in, Celeste just went, right, there's a Grumpjaw next to me, looks like I'm just going to have to kill him. With Helio, Supernova, even and stunning them out. I think at the end of the game, Scarf went very aggressive, trying to 1v3, and survived on a sliver of health. But I still think that was a mistake. I think they could have, Elite could have just backed off after they took the Kraken, waited, let Scarf get an Aegis, let Celeste not